Throughout Dead by Daylight's existence, the fog has been a very consistent presence that keeps DBD grounded in its indie horror roots, and this is accomplished with the fog contributing to the bleak atmosphere of the maps while also playing a crucial role in the lore of the game. The fog envelops everything that DBD does, from supplementing the aesthetics of the entity's ecosystem to being an integral part of the lore that helps explain the backstories of why and how characters disappear. The fog ties everything together. The fog is so embedded into Dead by Daylight that even the characters can occasionally obtain offerings that impact the intensity of the mist. And the best part is that the fog even helps serve as a message to the players. The message "See you in the fog" is almost always included in both developer communications and in a variety of social media posts and advertising, as it's an easy way to conclude anything ranging from a lengthy developer update to a short response on social media. It's clear that without the fog, or the dark mist as the offerings notate, several aspects of the game would be greatly weakened. Simply put, without this pivotal element, everything could fall apart. But here's the thing. Even though the message "See you in the fog" is chanted at every opportunity by the devs, the fog has been silently and gradually eroding, with it basically being entirely gone at this point. And it's not just the fog either. Dead by Daylight has been doing away with one of its most important components, which is the dreadful ambience and atmosphere that defines the gameplay and overall mythology. As a result of this, DBD's indie horror roots have been severely weakened. How exactly is this happening? Well, over the years between various realm overhauls and engine upgrades, many maps have lost the dark, oppressive atmosphere that once enshrouded the entity's realm. During the first few years of DBD, when a player loaded into a map, the ominous vibes were immediately palpable. Even after hundreds of matches and losing all sense of fear for the killers, there was something so special about loading into a match and immersing yourself in the map. The darkness that cloaked the map was somber yet beautiful. The trees concealed most, if not all, of the available moonlight. The lights of a completed generator illuminated an entire jungle gym. Any line of sight in the distance was tragically blanketed by the fog. Whether it was Coldwind's gloomy cornfields or Macmillan's murky woods, the foreboding atmosphere was tangible. The moody and dismal environments could be best compared to another popular indie horror game of the 2010s, Amnesia: The Dark Descent. While they differ in multiple aspects, both games contain environments that mildly resemble the creepiness of liminal spaces while also submerging them in a dark and depressing atmosphere. So in the context of the time period for Dead by Daylight's release, the original maps of the entity's realm certainly lived up to the expectations of indie horror games at the time. Now, when jumping back to the present, there is a very stark contrast with the state of maps today. After several realm reworks and engine changes, instead of desolate environments, brightened skies and clear lines of sight now exist on most maps. And while this can make for a more robust gameplay experience, it doesn't mean that the atmosphere has to be completely gutted in the process. DBD can coexist as a horror game while also providing satisfying gameplay. One of the biggest frustrations with the design of the old realms centered around how thick the fog was, especially with the usage of thick mist offerings. But instead of a reasonable nerf to the fog, now it's borderline non-existent. Take a look at this comparison of Macmillan. As a note, none of these examples have been altered in any way. This is all raw footage, no filters of any kind. Here is a reference point for what Macmillan looked like in 2020 with the uncommon thick mist offering applied. Even without the mist offering, the map would still be dark and eerie, but the thicker mist supplements the environment perfectly. Now look at this most recent example of Macmillan with no mist offerings of any kind. You can see how the realm has brightened, even though by today's standards, it still appears sort of dark. But what's also striking is the clear line of sight. Now, I'm not saying that the fog should be thick enough to make playing killer miserable, but the lack of any true fog and dark lighting makes this realm feel empty. And even when you add the thickest mist offering, it changes almost nothing. I guess if dirt clouds are fun, it's a neat offering to use, but really, what's even the point of this offering existing anymore? Let alone the fact that there's 3 other variations of this offering. These offerings barely make any noticeable difference in the appearance of maps, and unless these offerings receive a refresh of some kind, I believe it would be best to retire the lowest tiers, as all they do is clog up the blood web. And hell, the old Moonlight offerings were retired a little over 1 year after the game's release, all due to the inconsistent lighting that they plagued the game with. One match you'd have normal lighting, the next a bit brighter, and then the next the darkest moonlight. Consistent lighting allows for a better gameplay experience. Besides Macmillan, I also want to present how another legacy realm has changed, with that being Coldwind Farm. This particular realm overhaul has been the most tragic one to witness, as the realm as it exists today is vastly different from its previous version. The best way to exemplify this is with the Thompson House map. When you stand on the highest floor of the main building, it becomes very apparent as to how much has changed. The lighting is the #1 influence, obviously, but also the little details like the cornfields having more spacing between rows and the random filler objects that have been plopped in the middle of the field, that also is just weird to me. I'm all for fixing dead zones, but there's something both unsettling and satisfying about having nothing but a pure cornfield to run through in the darkest atmosphere. When you're running through the cornfield, you never know when you might stumble into another fellow survivor, or even the killer. This classic DBD realm lost so much magic with its overhaul, and it's one that I believe is in desperate need of a revisit. So what does the slow disappearance of the foggy, dark, moody atmospheres accomplish? Well, it not only improves the gameplay experience by eliminating the chances of super immersed survivors stealthing an entire match, but it also helps Dead by Daylight conform to a more standard video gamey look. At the end of the day, there's nothing inherently wrong about that, as this is the prerogative of the devs after all. The unfortunate side effect from decisions like this, though, is that it results in the game losing what made it special, which is the distinctive, gloomy atmosphere. The specific atmosphere that Dead by Daylight once had was essential to capturing the attention of many onlookers, some of which ended up purchasing and playing the game. And of course, things change and evolve, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But even if the current atmosphere of most realms is favored by more players than I would anticipate, who says DBD can't have both immersive environments again while also considering the gameplay side of things? Dark immersive environments are not a crazy request, and even adding back a little bit more fog wouldn't be too game-breaking. A common middle-of-the-road resolution that's been suggested is to grant each map a day and night variation. But I don't believe that's necessary. I fully believe it's possible to keep DBD in its indie horror roots while also offering a compelling and interactive experience. But the real question is, are the devs up to the challenge of restoring some realms to their former glory? I like to think that there is some potential there, but I suppose it depends on the resources they have available to them. But until the fog descends back into the realms, perhaps the message, "See you in the fog," should be paused. At least, that's just my opinion. That's all I have for now. Thanks for watching.